It usually begins with something small, something so ordinary, so harmless, that you don't even notice the shift happening inside your mind. Maybe someone didn't reply to your message. Maybe a coworker looked at you differently today. Maybe you posted something online and it didn't get the reaction you hoped for. One tiny moment, and suddenly your brain whispers, "What does this mean?" That whisper becomes a question. That question becomes a story. And that story becomes a storm. This is the birth of overthinking. In this video chapter, we open with a relatable scene. You're lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling. The room is quiet, but your mind is loud. You replay a conversation from earlier. Every word, every expression, every pause. The other person probably forgot it already, but you're still stuck inside it, analyzing every detail like a detective trying to solve a crime that never happened. Your heartbeat speeds up. Your chest feels tight. You shift positions, hoping your mind will settle. But it doesn't. Instead, it jumps to tomorrow. What if I mess up? What if I say the wrong thing? What if they think I'm stupid? This is where most people get trapped. They confuse imagination with reality. They create future problems that never existed, then fear them as if they're already true. As the storytelling continues, the camera slowly zooms in. Your face illuminated by the soft glow of your phone. A notification appears. You hesitate to open it. What if it's bad? What if it changes everything? A simple vibration becomes a trigger for 100 scenarios. This outline ends with a powerful emotional hook. Overthinking doesn't begin with a disaster. It begins with a single thought, that you give too much power. This moment sets the stage for the rest of the story, guiding the viewer into understanding why overthinking happens, how it grows, and how they can finally break free from it. Overthinking isn't just a bad habit. It's your brain trying to protect you in the wrong way. In this chapter, we dive into the psychology behind those exhausting mental loops, told through a cinematic story that connects deeply with UK, USA, and English-speaking audiences. The scene opens with a simple narration. Your brain is a survival machine. It's not designed for happiness. It's designed to keep you safe. Imagine a man standing at a crossroads. One path is familiar, predictable, and safe. The other path is new, uncertain, and risky. The safe path represents your comfort zone. The risky path represents your goals, dreams, and decisions you are afraid to make. Your brain pulls you toward the safe path every time, not because it's right, but because it's known. This is where overthinking begins. From an evolutionary perspective, your mind is wired to scan for danger. Thousands of years ago, that danger might have been predators or starvation. Today, it's fear of judgment, failure, embarrassment, or rejection. The threats changed, but the brain's response didn't. So when you have to make a choice, your brain throws you into a loop. What if you fail? What if people don't like your decision? What if this goes wrong? Keeps you stuck because it believes that worrying equals preparation. But in reality, worrying just paralyzes you. We illustrate this with a relatable moment. A woman trying to send an important email. She types, deletes, retypes, hesitates, checks again, doubts herself, and waits. Her brain is replaying every possible negative outcome, trying to save her from a potential mistake, even though the mistake hasn't happened. The story reveals a powerful truth. Your brain creates loops not to hurt you, but to protect you based on old programming. The emotional hook. You're overthinking because your brain is working overtime, but you can reprogram it. Overthinking feels harmless at first. It feels like you're just being careful, being smart, or preparing for the worst. But in reality, overthinking silently drains your life in ways most people never notice until it's too late. This chapter begins with a powerful visual. A person staring at a crossroads, not moving. People around them walk forward, confident, clear, and purposeful, while they remain stuck, frozen, lost in thought. This image represents what overthinking truly costs: your time, your opportunities, and your peace. We shift to a relatable story. A young professional in the UK, sitting in a cafe, staring at their laptop. A new job opportunity email sits open. They want to apply. They're qualified. but their mind whispers, what if you're not good enough? What if they reject you? What if you embarrass yourself? Seconds turn into minutes. Minutes turn into hours. And by the time they gather the courage, the application window has closed. This is the cost. Missed chances. Then we show a student in the US replaying a small mistake they made in class. They said one wrong word, one tiny slip, but their brain has turned it into a disaster. Instead of focusing on their goals, they're stuck reliving that moment again and again. The cost? Lost confidence. Next, we illustrate the emotional cost. Overthinking is like leaving a phone flashlight on all night. It drains your battery without you realizing it. You wake up tired, anxious, on edge. Even though you didn't do anything, that's because your mind was working overtime. The chapter gets deeper. Overthinking affects your relationships too. You start assuming what others think. You misinterpret silence. You create problems that don't exist. And without knowing, you push people away not because they changed, but because your thoughts did. The emotional hook at the end. Overthinking doesn't just waste your time. It steals your future. But once you see the cost, you'll finally be ready to break free. Overthinking feels powerful because it hits you fast. One small thought grows into 100 scenarios in seconds. But what most people don't know is this: your brain can't stay in an overthinking spiral if you interrupt it within the first 10 seconds. This chapter teaches the viewer a simple, science-backed technique that snaps the mind out of the loop instantly. We begin with a dynamic scene. Imagine someone pacing around their room, thoughts racing, heart speeding up, hands restless. They're stuck in replay mode, thinking about something they said earlier. Their mind is spiraling, but then something changes. They suddenly stop, take a controlled breath, and interrupt the cycle. The narrator explains, the moment you notice you're overthinking, you have a tiny window, a 10-second window, to break the pattern before it gains strength. This is the pattern break method, shown through a 3-step cinematic sequence. Step 1. Say stop. Not out loud, just in your mind. It acts like hitting the brakes on a speeding car. The mental noise freezes for a moment. Step 2. Shift your focus to the present. Look at something around you. Your hand, your phone, the window, a light, a plant. By anchoring your attention to something real, you pull the brain out of imagination and back into reality. Step 3. Take one small action. Send the message. Stand up. Drink water. Open your laptop. Move your body. Any small action tells your brain, we're doing something now. We're not thinking endlessly. We show this method helping different people. A student overwhelmed before a presentation. A man stressing over a text. A woman fearing tomorrow's meeting. Each one uses the 10-second reset to instantly stop the spiral. The emotional hook closes the chapter. You don't need to control every thought. You just need to interrupt the first one. Overthinking usually begins when we stand in front of too many choices. The mind suddenly opens 100 tabs. Each one a different possibility, a different risk, a different outcome. And because the brain wants certainty, it tries to solve all of them at once, which is impossible. This chapter introduces the one decision mind hack, a technique that simplifies your entire mental world into one clear, powerful choice. The story opens with a relatable moment. A person sitting at their desk, overwhelmed by decisions, changing careers, sending a message, starting a project, responding to someone, taking the first step. Their thoughts jump from fear to doubt to hope to hesitation. Feels chaotic, loud, and mentally heavy. Then the narrator says, your mind doesn't get tired from work. It gets tired from indecision. We present the hack through a cinematic lens. The scene slows down. The lights dim. The noise fades. The person takes a breath and says to themselves, what is one decision I can make right now that moves me forward? This question acts like a spotlight cutting through mental fog. Instead of weighing 50 outcomes, the mind locks onto one clear direction. Examples bring the concept to life. Instead of thinking, should I start the gym? What if I fail? What if people look at me? What if I stop again? The one decision becomes, I will walk to the gym today. Instead of, what if they don't reply? Should I text? Should I wait? Should I ignore it? The one decision becomes, I will send the message. Instead of, should I change my life? What if it's risky? The one decision becomes, I will take the next step today. We show how powerful this shift is. The brain stops spinning. Anxiety drops. Momentum begins. Life gets lighter. The emotional hook ends the chapter. You don't need the perfect plan. You just need one decision. Because one decision creates movement. And movement kills overthinking. Mental discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about creating tiny habits that train your mind to stay focused, calm, and steady, especially when overthinking tries to take control. In this chapter, we show how discipline is not a strict routine, but a form of self-respect that grows through small, consistent actions. The scene opens with someone waking up early. Not at 5 a.m. with dramatic music, just 15 minutes earlier than usual. The room is quiet. The light is soft. They sit with a notebook, write one sentence, breathe deeply, and begin their day. The narrator says, discipline isn't built in one day. It's built in tiny choices repeated over time. We explore 3 powerful storytelling examples. 1. The daily mind reset ritual. A young woman in the UK spends 2 minutes each morning focusing on her breath. Just 2 minutes. No fancy meditation. No perfect pose. This small ritual trains her brain to pause before reacting, making her stronger against mental spirals later in the day. 2. The one-task rule. A student in the US opens their planner and circles one task, not 10. By focusing on one thing at a time, they reduce mental clutter and build consistency. Small wins create confidence, and confidence kills overthinking. 3. The evening download. A man sits at his kitchen table at night and writes down everything on his mind. Fears, thoughts, worries, tasks. This practice clears his mental space, showing the mind, you don't have to hold everything. You can let go. We highlight the psychological truth behind discipline. The more predictable your habits, the less room your brain has for chaos. You're teaching it to stay centered, grounded, and controlled. Then the emotional hook. You don't become mentally strong by fighting your thoughts. You become strong by training your mind a little every day. This chapter shows viewers that mental discipline isn't a strict military routine. It's a gentle, steady commitment to yourself. This final chapter becomes the emotional climax of your storytelling video. It shifts the viewer's focus away from their current struggles and toward the powerful, confident version of themselves that already exists, waiting on the other side of overthinking. The scene opens with a cinematic visual. A person stands in front of a mirror, but instead of seeing themselves as they are, they see the version they wish they could be. Calm, secure, confident, intentional. Their future self looks back at them not with judgment, but with understanding and encouragement. The narrator begins softly. Imagine a version of you who doesn't replay mistakes. A version who speaks clearly, acts boldly, and trusts their choices. That version isn't a fantasy. It's you, without the noise. We walk the audience through how life changes when overthinking loses power. You make decisions faster. Your mind becomes lighter, clearer. You no longer waste hours stuck in loops about things that don't matter. You stop assuming the worst. Instead of imagining negative scenarios, you focus on action, solutions, and opportunities. You begin to trust yourself. This is the biggest shift. The future you doesn't need permission. They don't need validation. They move with intention. To illustrate this transformation, we show 3 short cinematic stories. A woman finally applying for a job she has dreamed about for years. She no longer hesitates, she acts. A man sending a message he's been scared to send. Not because he's suddenly fearless, but because he's stronger than his fear. A student presenting in class with confidence and clarity. They don't overthink how others see them, they focus on delivering value. The chapter ends with a powerful emotional hook. Your future self is not far away. Every time you stop an overthinking spiral, every time you take one small step, you move closer to the person you are meant to become. It closes the entire storytelling arc with inspiration and purpose.